remember that, eh? That, in case you don't know, was Tears for Fears with Head Over Heels. I couldn't remember the title of it then. 1985. Absolutely great song. Now, you might be wondering why I picked that tune for this particular video. Well, if you watched my my showdown between the Just Flight and the Carenado PA-28s, which I uploaded the other day to this channel, and if you haven't watched it, check it out, it's fun. But one of the things that was on that video was I pointed out that the most recent patch for Microsoft Flight Simulator had resulted in the Carenado PA-28 having the wrong flap settings. But I did point out that I'm sure Carenado would get around to fixing it. And more or less immediately after I uploaded that video, Carenado did in fact release a patch which sorted out the flaps for it. So I thought, well, it's only fair to do a video pointing that out. And I thought, well, I need a song for it. So I was thinking, are there any songs about flaps or anything like that? And as you can imagine, there aren't that many. But I got up this morning and for some reason I had that tune in my head, Tears for Fears, Head Over Heels. And I was wandering around the house getting ready to go out and sort my horse out. And I'm singing like, something happened, and it occurred to me, I was like, hang on, that'd really suit that video, because the problem with the Carenado PA-28 was when the patch came out and it messed up the flaps. When it was on the ground, it was somersaulting, so it was going head over heels. But here's another interesting thing about that song. When Tears for Fears wrote Head Over Heels, if I can speak, what they did was they used a riff from an earlier song, and the earlier song that that riff is from is called Broken. So it's kind of interesting that Broken and Head Over Heels were the two things that were occurring with that Carenado PA-28 when that patch came out. But as I say, I think it's only fair to show that it has been fixed. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, I'm not going to do the review again because everything still holds true what I said about it against the Just Flight one. But I'm just going to do a quick circuit with it to demonstrate that the flaps are now working perfectly fine. So let's check that out, and you can uncover your ears now because I've stopped singing. Anyway, let's check it out with the working flaps where it's not going head over heels. Let's go. Okay, so here we are at the same airport that was on the main Just Flight versus Carenado PA-28 Showdown video that this is a supplement to, and here I am in the Carenado PA-28. Different paint job from what was in the main review, but it's the same aeroplane. And what I will do is I will just swing the view around and prove to you that I am deploying some flaps. So you can see the flaps going down there, and we'll get in the cockpit, and this is going to be just a quick one. We're just doing a circuit just to demonstrate that it'll take off fine with the patch and the flaps, and it'll come in just fine as well. There we go, airspeed's alive, and it's building up. Oh, that really flew off the runway there. Airspeed's building, so we get the gear up. There it is going up. And take those flaps up. And then I'm going to trim the thing a little bit nose up too. There we go. I'm not going to be flying a particularly fancy circuit here, because really what we're about here is just getting around as quick as we can to bring this thing in for a landing, so that you can see how this thing behaves with the flaps fully deployed. So if this is a bit of a rough and ready circuit, don't worry too much. It'll be fine. So there we go. I think we're pretty good for the reciprocal turn. Once again, the patch, most recent patch version of Microsoft Flight Simulator, which caused the problem with this Carenado's flaps has introduced a slight bit of choppiness to the main program. So if you're seeing a little bit of choppiness here, it's not really this add-on that's doing it, it's the sim itself. I mean, there is always a bit of a risk that you're going to get some choppiness when you're recording and doing a voiceover and stuff like that with the flight simulator, but I think most of the choppiness, if you are seeing any here, is the most recent patch that's causing that. Anyway, there you go. So we're on the reciprocal heading for that runway that we came off, and while we're what I'm going to do is I'll just stick on the external view so you can see lovely as ever, like most Carenado aeroplanes are. What we're going to do is that little outcrop of hills there, we're going to get a little bit past that, and then we're going to turn around and bring it in like we did in the preceding video. So whilst we're merrily flying along waiting to get to that point, I'll just point out a few things, or rather talk about a few things. So coming up this week in 2 days time, if Aerosoft are true to form, on the 16th they release their CRJ, so I'm going to be doing a review of that fairly soon. One very nice aeroplane that I haven't done a review for yet, I have got it, but I was waiting for them to bring out a patch for it, which they did the other day, was the AT Simulations Piaggio P149, which was also licensed built by Focke-Wulf, so I'm going to be doing a review of that now that it's all patched and everything's sort of working on it. I mean, most of it was working, but they've refined it a little bit, so there you go. I'm going to come back on the throttle here a little bit because we're getting rather high, not in the drug sense, in the altitude sense. And what I'm also going to do is, I'll just get level to do this, I'm going to drop the gear and I'm going to drop a couple of stages of flaps to try and get some of this speed off. And of course now I've got some flaps down, I can close the throttle without getting that warning, which would be very annoying on the voiceover. There's a little, I don't know whether you noticed there, maybe you can rewind, but there was a bit of, for those of you that think that you're not getting traffic in this flight simulator, there were a couple of planes up in the top right that you could just see up very, very high. You could see the nav lights flashing on them. So there we are, we're getting to the point where we're going to turn, and I'm going to get more flaps on, and you can see that it does lose some speed when it's in level flight. And just to prove that we have got full flaps deployed and we're not going into a screaming death dive, there you go. So I'm going to close the throttle because obviously we want to keep the speed off, and then what I'm going to have to do here is I'm probably going to have to side slip this thing down because we've got about 1400 feet to lose in a very, very short distance. So let's try that. So there you go, dropping like a rock. Now you will notice that this thing, it's still holding quite a bit of speed, even, you know, in that really draggy configuration of all the flaps down fully and the gear down and what have you. So what I'm having to do is get pretty low over the terrain, which probably wouldn't make me very popular in real life, so that what I can then do is I can get the nose up a little bit and we'll lose some speed. And when I do that, you'll probably hear the engine note drop a little bit, which you are doing. And now the airspeed's coming down to about 70 knots. If I let it get much slower than this, we're going to start getting a stall warning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a little bit of power just to keep the thing riding. But you can see that now this thing has been patched and it's got flaps. We no longer have to come in with no flaps at 80 knots and use up nearly all the runway. So this thing's a little bit more usable, and as I said in the preceding video, which I'll put a link to down below if you've not seen it, I was pretty sure that Carenado would get around to patching it pretty quick, and sure enough they did, which is why I've done this video, because I thought it was only fair to to show you what the Carenado plane would fly like when they patched it, because I was fairly certain that they were going to fix the thing. And sure enough, there you go, it's okay. Now, it still doesn't lose quite as much speed as I think the real thing would, so I still think that the Just Flight one's a little bit more believable in terms of absolutely real-world replication of a PA-28. But everything else that I said about the Carenado one in the preceding video, and why I think it's something that you might want to look at buying, still applies, and you don't have to be put off by the notion that I can't use the flaps, because you can. Now, just to sort of demonstrate the other thing that was a problem but has now been solved, I'm going to come onto this taxiway here, and I'll bring this thing round, and you will notice that I've still got full flaps deployed, and it is in no way bouncing around or trying to do a cartwheel or go head over heels, as the intro song stated, because that patch has completely sorted it. The patch, if you're looking for it, if you've got this thing, is on your sort of downloads in the main sim. It's not on any sort of Carenado website or what have you. So there you go. And the original behaviour that caused me to do the main Showdown review without using the flaps, it was so bad that if you were flying along and you deployed landing flaps, the thing would just pitch over straight into a vertical nosedive. But when you were taxiing on the ground, I initially thought, when that patch came out, I thought that Asobo and the main Microsoft Flight Simulator patch, I thought it had introduced some holes in the terrain, because what I thought it was I thought it was the nose wheel going into a hole. It was that bad and making the plane cartwheel, but it wasn't. It was that it had affected the flap setting in the config file of the Carenado aeroplane. So yeah, they tested that out by taking another plane to the runway and taxiing the same route, and when that one didn't disappear into a hole, that's when I knew that the patch had affected this Carenado PA-28. But as you can see, that no longer applies, and this thing is back to being as good as ever. So yeah, check out the link in the description if you've not seen the original review, where I do a full comparison between this and the Just Flight PA-28. All the same things apply that I mentioned in there. This is just to cover the fact that in that original video there was the issue with the flaps, and this is just me trying to be fair to the Carenado plane, because the issue that it was having was not Carenado's fault. It was as a result of the patch from Asobo. Anyway, that's all for now. As ever, keep wearing those masks, stay safe. We're not far from coming out of this pandemic, so look out for yourself and look out for everyone else. And I'll see you for another Chocks Hangar video, probably later this week, because there's all that exciting stuff happening. Anyway, in the interim, take care. Bye.